Hey everybody, Jimmy with the Triple C Collective here for another Superhero Saturday commentary track, She-Hulk. Today we're going to be diving into episode 6, Just Jen. And this episode was good. This was definitely a bottle episode, and it's one location, group of people, tight location, not really going too far from it. Despite us still actually breaking away. So it's not a true bottle episode. And if I'm being honest, the stuff with Nikki and Mallory, I really liked. Those two working together was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch. Um, but episode 6, just Jen. Uh, this is weird though. So this was something that I caught each time that I watched this for viewing and then for notes. Um, is in the previously on. They shoot back to the scene where Jen is getting jumped by those thugs, and one of the thugs is actually given a name in this previously on. I went back. He's not given a name in that episode. No, none of those thugs are given a name in any way, shape, or form. The only thing that they're given away is that the boss is going to be mad. But here, we get a guy called Thunderball. Now, I only bring this up because between that episode of She-Hulk, which I believe was maybe episode 2 or 3, with that episode of She-Hulk and this one, we have also had D23. And in D23, we had the movie The Thunderbolts released, or announced. And we had a poster with a cast and everyone. Like, it seems like Florence Pugh, it's going to be Bucky Barnes, Baron Zemo, I think it's going to be all of them. But we got that Thunderbolts announcement. Now, this dude is called Thunderball. They were looking to get She-Hulk. We have a Thunderbolts movie announced. I mean, I could be reading way too much into that, but I have now, my new theory about She-Hulk is going to actually lead us into the Thunderbolts movie more so than anything else now. Is that the Thunderbolts or whatever, maybe whatever team Valentina is running, which is the Thunderbolts, but so I wonder if they're now after She-Hulk's blood to make then a Red Hulk. Things are happening here, and this is really sweet. So I just wanted to start this episode off. I watched the previously on, and I think it's really odd to drop something like that on a previously on where I'm sure 98% of people skip through it. But, I mean, I don't know. Maybe. So, let's dive into the rest of this episode. The episode starts with Jen getting her bridesmaid invite to an old friend from high school named Lulu. And, she opens it up, and then Nikki's there as Jen's packing for it, and it's like, why did you do this? And Jen's like, I don't know, we're not really friends. We just there was no hate or anything. We just kind of grew apart or whatever. But our parents and stuff are still really close. My cousin Ched is is DJing the wedding, so I feel like she probably felt obligated, and I felt obligated to say yes. And Nikki's like, you could have just said no. Nikki's my favorite character on the show. It's awesome. She's so funny. She's so great. And she's nailing it. She's just killing it. And then Jen's like, yeah, and I really hate that Mallory is having to pick up my slack at work. And Nikki's like, it's just a divorce case. You'll be fine. And then Jen does her fourth wall breaking, being like, oh yeah, it's a wedding at an inconvenient time, just like all weddings are, but I'm gonna look great. And so at least they're open and honest about it. Then Jen arrives at the wedding. She shows up as She-Hulk, and like everyone's like, "Oh, everything's working for you. You look great," and all that stuff. We get Lulu though, who is like it's something out of like a horror film almost that you would see, like just a weird smile and blinking. It's not even a smile. There's it's kind of like an in between of like shock and fear almost. Actually, if I'm going to be honest, is the look on Lulu's face, but she's blinking a lot, and it's just like, whoa, you are outside of your mind right now. And so then Lulu takes, Jen aside and is like, hey, I don't want you to take attention away from me on my wedding day. And Jen's like, oh, no, nobody's going to do that. Or like, I won't do that, not as She-Hulk or anything. Lulu insists, though, that Jen drops the She-Hulk for the wedding and everything like that, so that it can be truly about Lulu and not like the She-Hulk show, despite us being on a She-Hulk show, which is funny. And so, I don't want you to show up as She-Hulk at the wedding, is Lulu's final point. And Jen's like, okay. Breaks the fourth wall again. It's like, obviously, I didn't want to show up as just Jen today. And then we get the, opening title sequence, and then they come back. And then it's like just Jen, attorney at law and stuff. I really like what they've done. That they did it with like the Titania by She-Hulk, or She-Hulk by Titania and stuff, and now like just Jen, attorney at law. That's pretty funny too. I don't know. I've enjoyed that little stuff of like those little like jokes and like little fun bits and whatnot. I find that stuff extremely funny. So I really enjoy it. I've really enjoyed She-Hulk. She-Hulk's been fun. I do want to see more Daredevil. I will say, I did not like that they teased as much Daredevil before. It really made me think that we were gonna see him for like it like earlier on in this series, because after this episode, so to be fair, we're at the we're 2/3 of the way done. There's 9 episodes total here. This is episode 6, and we've been teased Daredevil once with his helmet for a pickup. So it'll be interesting. Now it'll be interesting to see if there is a little connection to the Thunderbolts, and we get another little kind of like scrappy attack team against like come in for Jen again to like take her blood, or something like that. Whatever it is, and so I wonder if Daredevil will end up just be patrolling his own like streets and happen upon this, and that's maybe how he gets introduced. But I mean, I don't know. At this point, I would have liked to have seen Matt Murdock just show up as a lawyer at least, even as like a for somebody else or whatever it is. It would just be nice to see. Either way, they have the showing up as just Jen, and then Jen is like, they cut back to Jen really quickly, and she's like, hey, so I see everyone's kind of like paired off already, like what about me? That's kind of like an odd number. And they're like, oh, no, Jonathan's just not here yet. He's the best. And I'm going to spoil it for you. If you haven't watched, I mean, I don't know why you're watching this first. I always kind of assume that that's what you do. You watch the episode first and then you come here. But Jonathan, spoilers, is a little dog. Yeah, doesn't play well out later. Super funny. Super funny. Then we get a cut to Nikki and Mallory working the divorce case of Mr. Immortal. Mallory, meets with Mr. Immortal. We last saw this dude, so he was in the Book of Boba Fett, and he played the Major Domo in Book of Boba Fett, and I loved him in that role. And and in this one, he's just as funny. He is just as, God, I don't want to say it's not overacting. He is just as big, maybe, is what I want to say. He is definitely that same, he definitely brings a presence with him. And it's awesome. And he's so great in this role. And I mean, hey, you know what? If he's got some sort of like deal with Disney, or if Disney's like, hey man, we're gonna have you just show up one role in like one of these shows across the board just because it's fun, what do you say? I'm all here for it because he is funny. He is funny, and giving him and his powers of Mr. Immortal, like. If I'm being honest, one of the things that I do really like about the She-Hulk show is this portion of it, is the actual like law and like the courtroom drama portion of it, in the fact that like it makes the world really lived in, and it's not, and like yeah, they have these fantastical elements with like, you know, Emil Blonsky and like Wong and his magic, and you know, like now Mr. Immortal and his inability to die, and and so like getting all of these characters in here while also then just having like, you know, people like Nikki and Mallory and Pug and Holloway and stuff, like just these normal average humans as well in there, like makes it really feel like a real world, like filled with, you know, like superhuman superpowered people and non superhuman superpowered people, and like it's really cool, like it's a really neat balance, and I find that very awesome. I find that very cool that we are getting like all of these different kind of looks into the world. Like everyone, I think everyone was so worried about, I guess, like grandeur and like, you know, the next big event like Endgame. Like, and I'm waiting for it too. Like they announced that we've got the Avengers, you know, Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty on the way, and so I'm excited for those. I'm excited for the rest of the movies, but like I also, until we get those big event movies, like I also want to live in the world. I want to know a little bit more about it, because we've only had these kind of movies as big events, and then most of the shows have been pretty personalized, very character driven shows. Not saying that She-Hulk isn't about She-Hulk. It totally is. But the way that they use She-Hulk as a lawyer in the world allows her to bounce between, you know, both superhuman and regular people, because, you know, in the end, everyone can need a lawyer at some time, I guess. And I don't know. It just feels like a real lived-in, like kind of full world like that, and I like it. We get a little bit of superpowers. We get a little bit about we get a little human stuff, and like I actually like the balance. I think it's pretty cool. But Mr. Immortal, wow, dude, the mistake you keep making, man, is getting married. Like I learned that in Community, like, you know, with Pierce Hawthorne. The mistake you're doing, man, is you keep getting married. But he says he's, you know, he always loves people, and like this isn't a typical divorce case. He's like, I'm trying not to be bled dry here. You know, we've tried, you know, several times and stuff. But, you know, I don't want to hurt feelings. It's a tough conversation to say that, like, I don't want to be married anymore. Your general presence is just an unbearable being for me now. And, you know, then sometimes you just walk out into rush hour traffic. And Mallory's like, wait a second. Instead of having a conversation, you instead kill yourself to get out of it. And then this is where a funny bit starts. He's like, "Oh, I'm actually immortal and I can't die, you know." And you know, well, I do die, but I can't die. And then Nikki's like, "Do you think this woman with a law degree doesn't understand what immortal is?" And then he's like, "Whoa, I thought lawyers weren't supposed to be judgy and stuff." And like and this whole bit is great because like they really put him in his place, and they're like, this is messed up, dude. This is like, this is crazy town. This is cuckoo town. And you know, like but this all ends with like Nikki and Mallory kind of badgering him, all for like way good reason. And then he ends up just jumping out a window, and then like gets up, fixes himself, and like rebelends himself out or whatever, shakes himself out, and is like good again. And he just takes his hat off, tips it up to them, and then he walks out. And so Nikki's like, well, at least we know at least we know how his powers work now. So that's great. Then we cut back to the wedding reception. Jen is talking with Lulu. I'm the head of a new law division. I've got superpowers, and Lulu's like, I don't care about that. What about a boy? And she's like, and Jen's like, oh no, I don't have a boyfriend or anything like that. And Lulu's like, oh, it's okay. Like, you'll find somebody eventually and stuff. And it's like, sure, if that's really what Jen wants. I mean, yeah, she's definitely talked about wanting to date and find someone, so it's definitely on her to-do list. But at the same time, like, Jen should be very proud of herself. She is the head of a division at a law firm. Like, I don't know many of those. So that's pretty cool. Like, yeah, it's a little weird that they want her to be She-Hulk the whole time, but it also makes sense. It's superhuman. Law division probably makes other people with, like, powers and stuff, or maybe even other people who don't even have powers but have, like, like their body changes, like, Mystique or She-Hulk or things like that, to where, well, no, that's a different universe. Never mind, I won't bring that up. Or like a Namor or whatever, and I can talk about him. He's out there now. We've seen him in the in that stuff. So like, things like that, Beast or whatever, mutants have been talked about. We're obviously getting the animated X-Men 97, so Beast was bound to show up again, I'm sure. And seeing all those like where their changes are actually like very physical like that as well, and it truly changes the color of their skin, Nightcrawler, all those kind of things. And so so yeah, like she's got her superpowers about a boy, and like, she's doing good. Like, despite all of that, like, she's doing really good. She doesn't have a boyfriend. And like, I don't know, I find Lulu very annoying and very condescending to Jen, and I don't like the downward punch. I don't like the punching bag that Jen's kind of become here. So like this, if I'm being honest, this episode, specifically those portions of it, like really annoyed me about it, because I also thought then that they kind of hit Jen a little too hard with the with her looks. Like, I think Jen Walter, like, she's a great looking woman. Her, She-Hulk, both of them great looking women. Would be, any single dude would be happy, should be happy to date either one of them, or be lucky to have them in their life. But like, I felt like they've talked down a lot about like Jen and her personal looks, and they even get into this a little bit here. And like, she talks about on how she's just doing good and she's happy about it. She's also really drunk at that point, but we'll get to that. So I don't know. I have a real problem with like Lulu here, and I've had a problem the last like couple of episodes of them almost like doing too much downward punching towards Jen, which I don't find very nice or fun or like sweet or anything like that. So like, that's kind of bothered me. But Lulu leaves this conversation to a Team Jacob, Team Edward conversation, and is gone. Titania shows up. Jen and her go back and forth, like, what are you doing here? Chit chat's over. I'm dating the friend of a groom, or I'm dating a friend of the groom, and he invited me here. And then Lulu shows up to say hi to Titania. And it's like, can't you see she weaseled her way into this wedding to mess with me? Isn't it obvious to anybody else? And then Lulu again, more of the, I hear you. God, Lulu sucks. God, Jen, why did you come to this wedding? But Titania, and it's like, I hear you, but Titania starts laughing. Titania didn't come here to just beat you up or anything like that. Like, why would you say so? Why would you think something like that? That's silly. And Titania's like, yeah, I just came here to celebrate, Lulu and her groom. Not everything is about you, Jennifer. Jen is then out onto the back porch. She's sitting there eating some candy peanuts. And this is where we meet Josh. Now, after this interaction, they don't give each other their names, but when we come back after this scene, like, they both kind of know each other's names at that point. It's interesting. So like, it was just weird because here they do not exchange names, and So he walks up to Jen and is like, sorry, I'm still weird. I don't know the least awkward way to introduce myself to somebody I want to have a conversation with. And she's like, yeah, it's a little rusty. Could use a little work. And like I'm trying to strike up a convo with a beautiful person eating candy nuts, and she's like, oh hey, like, yeah, that's my plan. And she's like, and then they're like, so here, bride or groom? And Jen's like, bride. Josh is like, groom. And what's this? And then they were like, what's this thing about the like +1? The numbers don't like make sense to any of this. And then he's like, yeah, I don't get it either. Lulu breaks them up and basically is like, the staff is basically quitting because they're saying of how I'm treating them. So I need you to basically come out here and clean up. And again, this is another one of those things that it just annoys me. Because, I mean, if I was Jen, I'm leaving this wedding at this point. It's not even worth being there anymore. It's like, well, I'm not your maid. That is not why I came here. That's not what I do. And yeah, that would annoy me a lot. And so they're on the back porch. Lulu breaks them up. Jen cleans up and then takes Josh inside, saying like, "Hey, I need you inside." We're cut back to the divorce settlement of Mr. Immortal. All the women talk about like the money owed. Mallory asks like, "How did you guys hear about this pattern of behavior?" From me, from Intelligentsia, and Mallory's like, "The Man Baby website," and like. Yeah, that's great. That's hilarious. Yeah. And then Mallory like does a knock on the table and spins them around. They do this cool swivel in their chairs and stuff. It was really fun. Like that was really cool. I was like, oh my god, that was sweet. I don't know. Maybe I'm just easily entertained. But then she leans into like Mr. Immortal, and like Nikki's in there too because they've been working this case together. And it's like, so this is what I was afraid of. You forged fake identities, faked many deaths, and like they should be filing criminal charges against you. You're lucky that they're only asking for like settlement money like this. Like they should be filing criminal charges against you. I will get you the best deal under the circumstances. You will have to pay. And she smiles, and Mr. Moore's like, why? Wait, why are you smiling? Why are you smiling? And Mallory's like, because it's fun. And like I was like, oh man, Mallory's crazy. I wonder if Mallory is actually secretly pulling some strings, trying to get some stuff on Jen. I don't know. I don't think so. I think actually Mallory and I don't know. Pugh's absence is questionable. I still don't know. And that could be just because the actor and like he played a bad guy before in the Arrowverse, so I'm kind of expecting him to show up as like a secret bad guy here. He could be. He may not be. But I as soon as I actually said those words of like maybe Mallory's the secret bad guy, no, that's stupid, that's silly. I actually like that they're working on a friendship development between Nikki, Mallory, and Jen. I've got a feeling that those three will end up being like a powerhouse actually inside GL Agent K. That's actually probably a better prediction. Those three will end up running that superhuman law division like very well. Yeah. That's probably what it'll be. Hey, maybe they'll even take Holloway's job. I'll give it to the three of them. Ooh, maybe Holloway leaves and then Mallory gets that job, and then it kind of puts another wedge between her and Jen. Interesting. Sorry, I am just braining here. So then they, he's like, why would you smile like that? It's fun. So then they're doing pre-wedding. They've got the pre-wedding stuff. The groomsmen have been playing Mario Kart, so their shirts are all shrunken. And like Mario Kart, yeah, professional. And they're like, yeah, video games are real sports now. You're on ironing duty. Oh, I am again. Why? Like, what? She's a bridesmaid too. She shouldn't be ironing. I don't know. have your stuff better. But maybe it's a sign of like how bad of a person Lulu is. Maybe I'm just like truly trying to make excuses for why why Jen would put up with this. She kind of talks about it. She feels obligated, but like at this point, my feeling of obligation would be gone. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a bad person. Um, but yeah, and then we get the arrival of Jonathan finally. And this is where Jen sees Jonathan for the first time as a little like lap dog, little small little foo-foo dog, which is fine. I'm not trying to like make fun of it, but it's like it's a small dog, not a human person. It's a dog. It is an animal. It's kind of something you should be told about, and maybe have the flower girl, ring bearer, walk in with that dude. Maybe make the dog the ring bearer instead. I don't know. I feel like that's a little insulting. Again, a lot of this episode seems to be like Jen coming out like outside of like her true friendship zone, which is fine. Like, you know, not everyone in the world will always be like super sweet or super on your side or anything like that, and that's totally cool. That's totally fine. That's totally real. But it's like at a certain point, like you just don't do things like this. Like, I don't know. I feel like they're trying to dunk on Jen a little bit here and like kind of like punch down on her. It's a little bothersome to me. Bothers me a little bit. So the dog arrives and then like as Jonathan for Jen's groomsman, and man, F Lulu, I'm over her. We cut back to the divorce settlement again. We've got Nikki. Or no, not yet. We don't have Nikki taking control yet. So we have the divorce settlement, and you know, Mr. Immortal comes up with a semi-fair, what seemed like a logically fair settlement. He's like, I still have my Apple stock from the '80s, and I have my gold from my first wife. How about I divvy all that up between the 8 of you equally, and you know, we call it a day. One of his wives was like, well, we spent 18 years together. You guys spent 3 years together. Why are we getting the same here? And she was like, well, I have a son. I had a son with him. And just because it's your mistake, and then they start all losing it. My son is not a mistake. And then, like, they all start yelling and screaming. Mr. Immortal tries to sit up, is pushed back down by Mallory. Tries to stand back up again, pushed back down by Mallory. Tries the third time and is like, and like just slightly moves, and Mallory keeps him in place. It's really awesome. Like the first time he gets up a little bit, then he gets up a little less, and then he just kind of like moves and just kind of gives a little move, and she just keeps him in place. We cut back to the wedding. It is now in full swing. Is now in full swing, and there's not really, you know, much going on except for drinking and dancing. And we get Jen going up to the bar, finding out that it's a cash bar. She wants an extra heavy pour because she's just so freaking annoyed with like Lulu and Titania and everyone there. It's just not a good time anymore for her, and she's really starting to feel it. And I get that. I mean, I get it. Again, they've been really mean to Jen this episode, I feel like. Almost unnecessarily. We get a montage of Jen buying drinks, putting down her $12 for, you know, the drink, the extra, the heavy pour, and then the $2 tip and stuff. Really funny. Then we get a cut back to the divorce settlement, and this might be one of like the single best parts of the episode. Is Nikki taking control? She's sitting, you know, crisscross, or her legs crisscrossed on the table there. She's got her little notebook, and she starts bouncing around to each person. She's like, "You want this? You got it. You want with the 15 seconds of the eye contact." You've got it. You want the cash money? You've got it. And like, so Nikki takes control, and you know, like, gets, I mean, in the end, I don't think they don't go through like every little detail of every single person. They give you like 4 of them. They give you like half, and it seems like everyone is extremely happy with getting exactly what they wanted, or getting what they felt was their fair settlement from all of this. It all seems that they all came to relative terms, and it was really impressive seeing this here with like Nikki, because so it's interesting. The one thing we don't know about Nikki is like she's obviously great, like Jen's best friend in the world, is a paralegal. I don't know if actually Nikki has any kind of desire or prospects to like try and be a lawyer herself, or if she just kind of likes where she's at, being a paralegal, being able to be involved in all of that, being able to be involved the way that she is, and to help, and like Mallory clearly giving Nikki the reins to allow her to like run this ship. Like that was really cool. This was really cool. Like I said, I really like the character of Nikki. She's great. I find her so so very fun. So like everyone gets what they want, and or they're completely satisfied with what Nikki came to for him. Then Mr. Immortal's like, this could have been, this got really ugly, but at one point I do want to say that I did love every one of you, and there was a huge ruckus for it, like, and groans and stuff, and then they got back to the wedding again. Jen is clearly drunk now. She calls Bruce, I haven't talked to you in days, weeks, call me, you ding dong. So that's interesting, because now we saw Bruce leave at the end of like episode 2, I think, or whatever, and maybe episode 3, and so he's been gone for a while, and he was out into outer space again. If you've been following Hulk, the last time we kind of saw him out in outer space and all of that was Thor Ragnarok. And if you remember in Thor Ragnarok, his blood falls onto that planet and a plant grows there. It's supposed to be a decimated planet with nobody there. So with no vegetational growth and like all that kind of stuff there. Like everything's imported in, and that's why it's whatever. So it's interesting then to see that, and one of the locals there that were like running the fight pits and the gladiator pits and all that stuff, like saw that. So it's interesting. Then we get the ship and the crash, and then we get the She-Hulk at the beginning of episode 1 there, and all of that. To now we see him actually leave and go there. Now he's been gone for days and weeks, which is interesting because, to be fair, the total time of the MCU TV shows, we don't really know how long all of them are taking. I like here clearly She-Hulk, like each episode could be about a week's worth of time to about a month's worth of time. There could also be some weeks and days in between each episodes that add up. So like they're not necessarily playing super tight with the timeline, but we're supposed to get the dropping of this in it is that it's been a few weeks now between the last time for sure, which adds up to the episodes. It's more than 2 weeks. It's probably 3 or 4 at this point. I think she even drops a line about a month in there as well, which, again, that all adds up to the timeline if we go about, like, each episode is a week long or so, and whatever. But then we get Josh approaches, he's like, Jen's like, that's a good name. You've got a good face. He's like, from my parents. And, I was actually kind of wondering when you were noticed. And then, they have a conversation about, like, love and stuff. And he's like, so, like, Jen's like, I don't hate love, I just wanted to go to a wedding to, show people I'm doing good, lawyering the law, really strong. I want to show you my She-Hulk hair. She always, everyone always says She-Hulk's amazing. And, I just wanted it to be amazing tonight at this wedding. And, like, again, the last few episodes, a lot of this show, I've even had this conversation with Colin, like, offline and stuff, like, just between us talking about the show and whatnot, of how they have been punching down on Jen a lot. And I didn't necessarily see it, but they've really leaned into it the last like 2 episodes. I felt about it, like kind of upon reflection and stuff. And so like it's really coming to a head here, and it's really awesome that like clearly, hopefully, Josh is actually a decent dude who seems to like Jen, and therefore will hopefully like She-Hulk as well as, like, I don't know, the bonus or whatever, because Jen wants to be Jen first and She-Hulk second. Even though we're starting to get that kind of like blend of balance, because don't get me wrong, I'm sure Jen is liking the attention of She-Hulk, but she says it right here. She would also wanted to just show that she's doing good and that she's doing amazing, like just as herself. Josh is like, well, I think you're great. And then we get Jen, oh no, it's happening. It's happening. And she goes outside, pukes, sucker punched by Titania. And like Jen's like, I knew it. Tania's like, I literally told you this isn't over. Now I'm gonna publicly humiliate you. And Jen's like, why can't you drop this? Like, I won fair and square. Why can't you just get over it? And Titania's like, I get over nothing. Not going. And then Titania's like, oh, you're not going to turn. It's not fun unless you're She-Hulk. Like everyone else thinks like you're the greatest, but I know you're not. You've ruined everything. And Titania goes on her like bad guy monologue here, like, you've ruined everything for me for something that you don't even want or you deserve, and I'm gonna force you to prove it. And then Jen's like, fine, just this one time, turn She-Hulk. She tries, she semi-turns She-Hulk and then turns back to Jen is like, oh, I forgot how to do it. It's really funny. It is the equivalent of like, I found that as the equivalent of somebody not being able to perform in the bedroom after drinking too much, and that was very funny. It was very, very funny to see that, of her being like, oh, I forgot, can't do it. Super funny. But then like Jen closes her eyes, she focuses herself, opens her eyes, and she's turned into She-Hulk again. Then we get the wedding fight, and She-Hulk stomps, shoots Titania into the like dance floor and everything like that. We get Chet dropping a beat like, the She-Hulk fight, we've got a wedding fight. That was really funny, and She-Hulk fights Titania, and it's a fun fight. Like, I liked their courtroom battle. That was really fun. This was really fun here. We're obviously going to get some other battle with her later on in it, because like this is the second battle. And you gotta have a third big battle for them, and you had it in episode 1, then you have it in episode 6, then you have it in episode 9. It'll be interesting to see, though, if Titania, by episode 9, ends up fighting with She-Hulk, as opposed to fighting against her. I don't see that really happening, but there is a chance that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so that could always turn out for them. We never know. But they fight, and Titania then is like knocked to the other side of the room, some ice spills. She's walking over in furious, trips, breaks her teeth, and like, oh man, it is very funny. And she's like, oh, my veneers. She takes a cake and leaves, and calls it, Titania's out of here. She's out of the episode and she's gone. Jen explains to Lulu, I was puking outside. She sucker punched me. And then Lulu's like, oh my God, She-Hulk's at my wedding, because she did the bride thing and got really drunk, and probably just is like, I'm on cloud 9 right now. This is really cool. And then Lulu walks up and is like, oh my God, I love you so much. And is like, huge boobs, congrats, whatever. Oh, that was so funny. And then Mallory, and it cuts back to Mallory and Nikki, and they're talking about the divorce, like why a man afraid of commitment gets married 8 different times. Again, the problem that he has is that he keeps getting married. And Nikki's like, oh, you must not be single living in LA. She's like, nope. Married for a long time. 11 years. 11 years in October, the day after my son's birthday. And Nikki's like, whoa, 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 you're married? You have a kid? Children? Kids? Kid? And like Mallory's like, okay. That's enough questions for tonight, Nikki. Let's not. And like, I love Mallory too. We don't get a lot of her, and she's kind of, you know what? In the end, she's kind of like the shark in Jaws. In a lot of ways, she's the Joker of the Dark Knight. She's not in everything, but the scenes and stuff that she is in, she's fantastic, and she's killing it. Like, we get a lot more screen time of Nikki, but Mallory Brooks, awesome character. Love watching her. Love seeing her. She is so calculated and so cunning and stuff. Like every move she makes is 100% thought through, and it was amazing when we see Nikki doing the deal, because you see Mallory just hanging out on the back of the on the back wall with Mr. Immortal as Nikki is sitting crisscrossed on the table there, and is like has a really big smile on her face and is like very impressed with Nikki, because Nikki did a great job. Everyone seemed very happy, and it's like, "Are you good with this?" Well, great. And like it was really awesome. But then Mallory and Nikki go to Intelligentsia. They start looking at a couple of things here of the Mr. Immortal stuff, because you were able to just see that without making an account. Then they have to make an account to see what they're saying about Jen, because they see on like one of the side scrollers one of the thing about like something about SheHulk or whatever. So of course they click on it, and it's like, oh, make an account or whatever. So they make a free account, and they start looking through some stuff, and like they get dark. It's like how to kill SheHulk, or let's get SheHulk, things like that. And it's messed up, and like, you know, Nikki's like, we got to talk to Jen, and Mallory was like, no, what the put that mess in her head? She's got enough going on. These are just trolls. Let's not tell Jen. And it's actually this line here that puts it two ways for me, of where I said earlier, like maybe Mallory is like a bad person, or like an evil bad guy. Possibly. I really don't think so. But it's that line of like, no, we shouldn't tell Jen. I'm torn, because like she makes a good point, and like that's gonna mess with Jen, and Jen probably doesn't really need to know that, but like at the same time, Jen was attacked, so she knows that there's a possibility of that stuff out there. I don't know if Jen is told like Mallory and Nikki though about her getting attacked, because then if they knew about her getting attacked and then seeing these threats, it might be a real like thing of like, oh no, we need to take a step back here. It's good that you got your super suit. We need to do some things differently here for sure. And so so it's interesting. It's very interesting here on what we got here for it. So it's that back and forth of where I was like, not telling Jen, that kind of seems like a bad guy move, like somebody working against her. But the idea of like trying to keep Jen's like mental health and her state right, especially, again, we've seen this whole series, the last couple of episodes especially, they've been punching down on Jen, like, you know, kind of being a little bit mean. So like, you know, taking a break, maybe not giving her all of this yet to kind of think about and have it mess with her, probably a good thing. Don't entirely know. But yeah, so like we do all of that. Jen, Jen and Nikki part their ways, and then Nikki, of course, calls Jen on the way home, lets her know everything, and is like, Mallory told me not to do that, but leaves her a voicemail. We cut back to Josh and Jen having wedding fries, and they're like, hey, he's like, is this good? And she's like, oh, they're so good. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna get in here and dip. And like they've got ketchup and stuff. It's awesome. I love this. I love the continual eating of fries, because this is like one of my favorite things. I love French fries. I love all kinds of French fries. So like I do this regularly of like just eating French fries and stuff. And so like this really hit close to home of like, oh man, I need some French fries right now. So yeah, I love it so much. Then we cut to the lab, which is interesting because just like last episode when Jen actually was getting into her super suit and all of that, and we saw the Daredevil thing, there's no like true mid-credit scene here, because this lab message that we get a lab. It's all white coats and stuff. We don't really see people's faces, but we do see on the a computer monitor running all kinds of like diagnostics and tests or whatever on Jen. They don't really have her blood, so I don't really know like what kind of exact test they're running. But they're monitoring her somehow, surveilling her somehow a little bit. They've got like things going like on there. Then there's a message from Hulk King. The message from Hulk King is the next phase of the plan ready to go? Question mark. Then we see from the message, we kind of pan a little bit, like do a nice little panning shot here, and we move to the other scientist that walked by and who we started to follow. He puts down a new needle, a thicker needle. So obviously, this Hulk King, this lab, and that Thunderball dude, the people who tried to originally jump Jen and get her blood the first time, they're all working together here. And again, big theory brain, Thunder, based off the stuff that we got announced from D23, I really think that Thunderball in that episode when they first tried to get him, the Thunderbolts and this are all connected. I think She-Hulk is actually doing some preemptive ground laying for Thunderbolts and stuff, which is interesting. I think that trying to get her blood to eventually get a Red Hulk for the Thunderbolts, it makes a lot of sense that these are the dots that they are trying to connect. And it's interesting. The most interesting thing that really stood out to me was watching the previously on, because it is so glaring that they call him Thunderball there. And it's very clear that they did 2 takes of that. They did 1 take without the names, and they did 1 take with that name for this reason. And because we do see that same broken bent needle in this lab shot as well. So I really think She-Hulk, as much as we thought that She-Hulk was going to be like a fourth wall breaking comedy, as it really has been, it has been pretty fun. It's been very light in terms of like people dying and all that kind of stuff, and like big end of the world kind of things, which is cool. I don't really need that right now. I'm cool of just I've been really liking the shows. I've liked the smaller scale, but even the big scale of Moon Knight and the big scale of like Miss Marvel and stuff. I've liked that. Miss Marvel is pretty tight, but we saw the world in that. Same with Moon Knight. One thing I have been liking is that, you know, for the most part, we went to Mexico with Bruce to learn how to become She-Hulk here and this, but for the most part, everything else has been taking place in L.A. It's been nice having that, living in a city, seeing that kind of world and stuff. So again, but that needle, there's a whole new needle. It's like a big old thing that it looks like we're going to get a round 2 here, which again leads me to thinking that She-Hulk will be getting attacked somewhere. Like she will have, there's going to be a setup. She's going to have to go meet somebody somewhere, a client or something. It's going to be nefarious. Maybe we see the Kingpin in here. Maybe we meet Echo or something who's being surveilled by Daredevil. Somebody else gets there, tries to attack her, and Daredevil, by focusing on the Kingpin or the Echo or whatever, maybe a Bullseye they bring in, whatever brings She-Hulk to this place, Daredevil will be surveilling it for his own reason. That's why they probably cross paths and she gets attacked. And Daredevil, maybe they get her blood, maybe not. But Daredevil will be the reason probably Jen doesn't get killed from that sneak attack there, or will definitely be the reason why she, you know, walks out. Maybe probably without her blood. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we do here. We've only got 3 episodes left, so we're in the last third of the series here. Whoo, there's a lot coming. I'm really excited to see what we get next. I really like She-Hulk. I have gone so far over this episode. I'm going to stop talking here. I am Jimmy with the Triple C Collective. I want to thank you all for joining me here on this Superhero Saturday, She-Hulk Episode 6, Just Jen commentary track. I hope you all stay safe. Excelsior!